This week's episode is sponsored by ExtraStatic. ExtraStatic is a hosting service for Svelte blogs. Svelte blogs combine the simple conventions of Jekyll with the incredible power of Svelte. Check it out at extrastatic.com. Hey, it's another episode. Yay. Today, we're only two, me and Antony. Sean was occupied. He had to do other stuff. But this is going to be an awesome episode anyway. Today, we're going to talk about page endpoints and name layouts. Two new cool features. But before we start, maybe we should check in. So what have you been up to, Antony?
Mostly working. Just honestly, I think that's just sort of been my default response for quite a while. Just working, buried in work. But it's all good. It's all positive. Still hiring some people and getting them onboarded and trying to run a team, which is not something I profess as a skill, but it's one you learn on the job, I guess, because you have to.
Yeah, learning those management skills, eh?
Exactly.
So where are you guys at? What have you guys been doing over at Beyonc?
I mean, there's loads of stuff around sort of, I guess, being able to serve bigger and bigger customers, which is features for enterprise and et cetera in tech is the same sort of thing. You know, the bigger the customer, the more sort of, I would say esoteric. I'm not sure it's esoteric, but basically the demands they have are quite high. So building things for them is quite a diversion from where we started, but then that's kind of the joy of startups. That's how pivoting works, isn't it? You just kind of keep swapping stuff around to meet the market that you find yourself in rather than the market you were aiming for, I suppose.
Product market fit?
Yeah, well, exactly. It's I don't know if it qualifies as that, but essentially it's just the people interested in our platform are different to the people we imagined would be interested in our platform. So whilst we're still serving the ones we were aiming at, we now have a whole set of new things to aim for that we hadn't sort of expected or really factored in. And starts off with a very simplistic idea and you end up with a lot of tech debt on the way. And so keeping on top of that has become ever more important. And I think we do a pretty good job of it, which is good. It's an easy one. We're still actually on Sapper as well. A lot of our stuff's still on Sapper. There's a few SvelteKit apps, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to migrating those because obviously I'm seeing all this really exciting stuff going on in Kit and not being able to actually use it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Exciting times for you then.
Yeah.
When you,
what about you?
So I've been a lecturer on Svelte or like a conference talk at a smaller company, like a consulting agency here in Stockholm. They seem to like it. A lot of people showed up. And Svelte seems to be blowing up. Yeah.
You didn't fancy banging the old Tory drum?
The what?
The Tory drum.
The Tory? Right.
You know, the alternative to Electron.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So other than that, I've been mostly working on the Svelte Summit stuff. It's a lot of stuff to do. Like I just picked the venue that we're going to be at the fall event. So that's nice. I don't have to worry about that anymore.
I always felt kind of guilty, you know, when we're doing this sort of purely community-wise, not being able to help as much as I would like to because of other commitments. And I think now it's your full-time job. I'm just saying, well, there you go, Kev. Yeah. This is what you signed up for.
I brought this upon myself, right? So, we just picked the venue, tweeted out some bits about tickets that you can buy. So that's always fun.
Nice.
And we have two confirmed speakers so far. So Rich Harris is one, and Penguin, the almighty Penguin, will do a talk, hopefully on MD-Specs.
I've never seen him speak live. I've always wanted to. Never seen him speak live, actually. Apart from obviously like talking directly to him, but never seen him give a talk is what I mean.
Yeah, you know what he sounds like in person then.
Oh, I know what he sounds like in person. Yeah, I mean we still do our maintainers meetings every month or so.
And, that's true.
Yeah. Interesting that you just moved your window so you weren't staring at the desk. Was that from an external monitor to an internal monitor by any chance, or vice versa?
Vice versa.
Right. So interesting thing, before you did that, when it was on the other monitor, there was loads of screen tearing, and your face kept flicking off screen and going to green constantly.
Oh,
and I was
interesting.
wondering what it was. And you moved the window, and it's now perfect. So another Mac monitor thing.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Really weird.
It's probably my weird camera setup as well. I have this DSLR thing, right? I talked about last time.
Of course.
And it goes through all these weird contraptions on the way. Oh, there it is again, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do?
I don't know. Nothing.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, so Svelte Summit. Yeah. So we have the spring event coming up in just like 3 weeks. So that's going to be exciting. And a couple of days before that, we have the Svelte London meetup that was just announced, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's going to be
London.
kind of a pre-party thing.
It is. We are trying to do the Svelte London meetup with a bit more, like a more regular cadence.
Yeah. Because
I think it's better for everyone. It gives more predictability to schedules. People can actually plan to do talks and stuff, and they know if they don't do a talk for meeting A, they won't miss the next one, kind of thing. It allows the venues to be more prepared.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it's nice now that we've got enough people that this can happen, because again, when it's just me trying to spread myself across too many things, which is definitely something that I apparently do. But yeah, so it's good that now there's other people who can sort of take up the slack when I'm not available, or vice versa, or just randomly get COVID, whatever I decide to do on the day.
It is, yeah.
As has happened.
Yeah. All right. So should we get into the meat of the topic of the podcast? Meat of the podcast? That's a weird thing to say.
The podcast. Let's do it.
Yeah. So let's talk about page endpoints. What are page endpoints? Do you know?
Well, so I haven't looked at them in any depth because I just haven't had time and haven't actually had to use them yet, because we don't use endpoints a lot as a whole because our API is separate. But essentially, it's a way of reducing the boilerplate.
Yeah.
Between a page.
You don't have to write the load function anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can just serve up the data straight from there, and then ta-da, it's in your page magically. It just kind of inherits all that data, which I think is, it's definitely in the right direction for Svelte. I know we had a lot of features, and we have a lot of the API surface area, whether we like it or not, will always grow. And I think the layouts thing we'll talk about next is an example of that. But yeah, essentially, like, this is actually almost reducing API surface area. It's almost simplifying, removing boilerplate. So I think it's a really strong thing for Svelte to have, or for SvelteKit to have, rather.
Yeah. When I started using Svelte and Sapper back in 2019, I was pretty new at the time. So I always wondered, why do I have to write this like fetching logic twice, right? Because that's basically what you have to do to get the SSR functionality. Yeah. And I just wanted to like fetch it once in the load, or what was it called? Preload?
It was in the preload, yeah.
Yeah, preload. Yeah, I always wanted to just write it there, but then you can't fetch stuff from a database or whatever in there. So it would always just break.
Yeah, so exactly.
So this is a way of basically just getting rid of that load stuff and then being able to fetch stuff from a database, and it just auto-generates a simple load function for you, I guess, in the background. Yeah.
It's a lot more like Meteor was back in its heyday, where you've got like almost a database access directly in the browser. It's not quite like that, of course, but it brings us closer to that, which means that it's easier to manage that data anyway. So yeah, I quite like the idea of it. Although, like I said, I probably won't use it, but maybe there's something I can do with my external API in this anyway. Who knows?
Yeah. So the thing I was thinking about, like when I saw this the first time, is sometimes you have these situations where you want to refresh data, right?
Yes.
So you want to, like, you go to page and you load, let's say, 10 messages, and then you want to have a button that says maybe, I don't know, refresh or something like that. And how do you do that? Do you just have to reload the page to run the
load function again?
Yeah. Do you get my conundrum here?
Yeah, I do, because you don't have that fetching logic in the page anymore.
Yeah, because before that you could just load it, like you could just fetch the endpoint. In your regular script tag.
I guess maybe like you'd end up using sort of I don't know, maybe a timeout or something. I'm not sure. I haven't dug into it. I haven't really looked into it. I mean, I haven't tried out how it works and what it actually does in terms of the browser. Yeah, it's an interesting one because I have a similar sort of thing with pagination. We use the fact that changing the query will actually cause the load method. Well, yeah, I'm still using separate, like I said, but the preload method to run again, which will then fetch more results. But it's interesting because, I don't know how this would work alongside that.
So I think in that case, you'd probably just have a param with the page, probably, and that would just refresh the page. But then there are situations like if you don't want to reload the whole page, right? You kind of just want to reload some parts of the data, I guess, is the thing.
I guess if you're partially updating data, you're not going to be running that. You won't run the preload method anyway, or the load method. You're going to be using basic sort of in browser fetch to get that new data as and when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I guess
that's a good conundrum. It should be like a new section. It should be called Kev's Conundrums.
That's a good idea. We could just have like a bunch of different sections. Actually,
it's interesting.
That's probably what most podcasts do.
That's probably what. Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, though, it's interesting because it would be a good section because it's almost like there are a million different approaches to everything that people do, and it's interesting. Like on Twitter, you post it, and what are you doing, or whatever else. People can then respond with, "Well, this is how I do it. This is what I do." Yeah, might be good to have that because I think pagination is one that there's a million ways to do pagination. I've chosen one that kind of works the way I want it to. I don't know if it's perfect.
Right.
It seems to work. But I do also know that shared state, I've got a store that runs in preload, aka load, and that is actually server side. Therefore, the state is global to the whole application and all its users. So that is probably not a great place to have a store. So I don't think anyone's going to run into it because one, it only stores the actual last page anyway. But it's interesting to wonder, like, effectively, if two people looked at that at the same time, would they get cross wires?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an easy gotcha. It's actually one that's been raised a few times. It's an easy gotcha, which is that stores on the server side are global to the app.
Yeah.
Same as they are on the front end, but you're only global to the app, to the client, right?
Yeah, because there's only one client. Yeah. I wonder if like the serverless approach helps in this case. Probably not, right? Because you'll still have like kind of server instances running very short amounts of time on edges, and then if two clients end up going to the same instance, I don't know.
Yes, I mean serverless isn't serverless, right? Serverless is basically server managementless, I guess is a better way of putting it. So you would have the same issue. You might be lucky and hit a different clients at different endpoints, but ultimately, a sort of Lambda spins up and sits there 15 minutes. In that 15 minutes, if you've got this global piece of state, then everyone's interacting with it. So I don't know. Yeah.
Something to think about.
Something for Kev's Conundrums is what it is.
Yeah, maybe that's we could reach out on Twitter and like ask like what kind of questions do people want answers to, and then we could discuss whatever question that we find interesting. Something like that.
Readers write in. Readers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. So there's also named layouts. This is a new one. And this is a weird one in a sense. It's nice, but it's a bit confusing to me. So it seems like we're moving a lot of the logic out of the actual code into the file system in a sense. In this way. So
kind of.
I guess before we start talking about it, maybe we can describe what it is.
Yeah.
Do you want to give it a go?
I can give it a go. Yeah, I can give it a go. So essentially, one of the premises of Sapper and one of the premises that is SvelteKit is that file system-based routing is the way that routing's done. There's no routing config files. There's no way to actually interact with the router or add routes or anything else via config because it's sort of convention over configuration. It would get very confusing if you could actually augment it in the site. It took me a while to get on board with that because I liked describing all the file. I quite liked routing in that manner, but I'm sort of on board now with file system based routing. But obviously, file systems have a lot of restrictions and what characters you can use. And so that definitely makes it quite complicated to give the power of a configuration-based file system without doing one of two things. I guess one is making some really crazy file names.
Yeah.
And the second is to basically export properties from pages, right? I think that, again, to keep it sort of simple in one place and to keep it file system based, we've gone with the approach of making this whole thing expressive via the file names. And so adding an at character. So the problem we're trying to solve, of course, is that with a file system, it's hierarchical. So if you have a layout at the top level and you're 2 levels, 1 level, 2 levels down, you're inheriting all the layouts from the parents. And it means that if you have a specific URL structure in your site, it really sort of determines your layout, and you can't do much about that. There's no way you can turn that layout off other than stick it in a component and import it where you need it, which is a bit messy. So what this solves, therefore, is allowing you to be nested somewhere down in a stack and essentially erase a layout, skip a layout that's come from the hierarchy that it lives in. So you could say, I actually want to use a different layout from somewhere else on this one specific page. It's kind of hard to think of an example for that because, for example, one of the ways I use hierarchical layouts is I have a /user on our site, and under there you've got create password, reset password, login, sign up, whatever else. I want those layouts to be consistent. I want to have this big sidebar and some boxes on the other side, and that makes sense. But I have definitely seen an instance where I want to have a completely different layout for one page, even though it sits in that logical URL structure. And so this provides a way to do that. And the syntax is a little difficult to get your head around to start with, but I think ultimately we spent a long time coming up with that structure. And so I think that really, I think we've come to the best conclusion possible.
Yeah, it seems, so I was going to give the example of you'll have a marketing or like a landing page, and then you'll have a user accounts page where like the layout for the marketing pages or the, I guess you'd call them marketing pages, would be completely different, maybe with a specific kind of navigation bar at the top. But then once you're signed up or signed in, you have a completely different user experience in that you might have the navigation might be on the left side or whatever instead of the top. Then you could probably use this. So maybe you'd call that layout maybe something like internal or admin or user or naming is hard.
No, naming is hard. Naming is extremely hard. Yeah, that's it. I think there are very limited. I say limited. It's rare that you need this functionality, but when you do, you're really kind of stuck without this.
Yeah, before this, it was very hard to because you'd have to import different components, and then depending on what the route was, you'd have to do an if statement, and then use different layout components depending on where you're at. So this is pretty nice. I haven't yet completely wrapped my head around all of this. I'm not sure what the is there stuff you can't do with it? Is there stuff that you can do with this that you can't do with other ways of doing layouts? I guess we'll see. So I saw the talk that Rich did at the New York meetup a couple of days ago. He also showed something called typed params, which is that's also in the file system. So where you do the ID square bracket kind of thing? Yeah. So if you do that and then you do ID equals integer.
Yeah, ID equals
for
integer
example.
When I saw
Yeah. So and then you have, I think there's a match.js file somewhere as well. So if you do, I don't remember exactly, it's a function, right? That you just get the parameter and then you just check if it's following the logic that you've...
The format, it's parameters and matches can be more complex functions. The reason for this was because we used to have fall through routes where if it didn't match a bunch of stuff, it would fall through. And that's fine, but sometimes it's not the most ideal way because you're ultimately looking for more specificity, I guess, in what you're looking for in a URL. And so, you now have these files, you can export these parameters which have more complex matching logic. They were going to be called validators, but then I actually pointed out they don't validate anything. They're not.
Yeah.
If you think about routers in a traditional sense, validation is a specific concept that means a specific thing, and it's not really that. It's more like a matcher, because you're essentially matching a URL against a set of possible pages, and if it doesn't match any of those, then it comes up with a 404 kind of thing.
Yeah. I wonder if you could take this further, and because I remember, I think it's Elixir that has like a concept of pattern matching is pretty big in functional programming, right?
Yeah.
And I think they have the concept of where if you match something that ends up being an integer, you'll get one thing, and if it ends up matching into being a string, you'll get another kind of page. Or
that's essentially how you can do it. It's like a regex, right?
Yeah, but I wonder, that's probably not something you could do right now in SvelteKit, because you'd either have either it's an integer, like in this case, or it's an error, because it would just error out if you're trying to go to an ID page that contains a string rather than just numbers.
You'd have to do it manually. You have to do like an endpoint that then redirects people, or you have to do some sort of fall through, and the fall through is your other type of parameter matcher, I guess.
It would be ugly, but
it's not as clean. It's not as clean for sure.
Maybe you could do ID equals integer, and then the pipe, and then you just match it to different things, and depending on what kind of thing you match it to, you can do different things in the.
Well, this is an example now. I think of where I don't know where we landed up with that, but I think that as before, you could always use a regex in the file name to match specific things.
Oh, right.
I don't think we've lost that functionality.
Okay.
So you can effectively say it could be this or could be that. But again, you definitely can, because you can use the matches.
Yeah.
And in there, you've got a function, and you say either does or doesn't match this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a pretty new concept. I hadn't heard about it before I watched the talk, so I'm going to play around with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Not sure what I'm going to use it for yet, but we'll see.
Well, I'll tell you actually one interesting way of using it is we change ID structure now and then, and we do have a different type of thing for an older ID. And so we can actually use that to say that this type of user, whilst it is in the same path, their URL matches an older style of ID, therefore we should call some legacy endpoint or whatever, or indicate some way that it's a legacy user.
Oh, right.
So it's useful for that kind of thing too.
That kind of makes sense. If you're if your user is registered before.
Yeah.
Maybe not registered.
Certain
but
point.
Yeah.
Well, if it's an older kind of user that you don't want to migrate, like a legacy type plan, maybe like a bunch of sites have those now. The reason of doing this obviously is because people bookmark things, and I don't want to destroy everyone's bookmarks by having a legacy URL and a new URL in place of the old URL that doesn't work with their account and stuff. So it's a way of saying I can differentiate, and almost it's completely transparent to the user.
Yeah. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it for the new features. Is there anything else? Yeah,
there's a load of stuff going on prior to 1.0. I think one thing I believe we merged last night. I can't remember if we did or not, but is the SvelteKit :reload parameter. So it's a lot like the old rel external or download attribute on anchor links. If it has SvelteKit :reload, it basically will follow the link as if it were just a regular HTML link, and SvelteKit will not intercept that and handle it as an SPA link. So it's just kind of unifying that behavior.
So there's a bunch nice for downloading files.
Well, downloading files, you can use a download attribute, which will do that for you anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But if you want consistency, you can use the reload as well. Yeah, it's a bunch of kind of, I call it low hanging fruit, but things that have been not merged for a while, kind of been sitting there, that I think are now going in, because we're kind of trying to do like the final run up to 1.0 with a bit of luck, and makes sense to get some of these things decided and out of the way. So there's all that fun and games.
Yeah. Is it time for 1.0 soon?
I mean, it's always time for 1.0, right?
Yeah.
It's always time. I mean, that's it. So it's important to get these little decisions made, because once you hit 1.0, those decisions are a bit set in stone, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I guess that's the topics for this week.
That's the crux of it.
Yeah. So we now have the infamous section, Unpopular Opinions.
Opinions.
Do you have one?
No, I don't.
This is very weird, Anthony. I didn't expect this.
I know, I didn't expect it either. I'm sure I have got some. I've sort of pushed them down deep inside and let them rot. Yeah,
I have one.
I don't really have any.
I have one, so I can
go ahead.
I can go. Yeah.
Yeah.
AWS is a headache.
Oof. It's not that unpopular. It's not that controversial.
Yeah, that's probably just semi-popular, depending on who you ask, I guess.
I mean, isn't this the entire premise of the Cell, Netlify, you name it?
Yeah,
yeah.
That's
true. AWS is a headache.
Yeah. It's it is what it is.
somebody went and built a multi-billion-dollar company around AWS being a headache.
That's pretty cool that someone could do that. Yeah. That's my opinion. It's a headache.
Yeah.
Do you have any picks?
Picks. I mean, I'm good at my pick's got to be this weird sound card that I've bought.
Didn't you pick that last week?
Did I pick it last week? Probably didn't I?
Well, pick it again.
I mean, I would pick it again if I could. It is really good. I'm actually, I don't know if I was using it last week. I think I got it, but I hadn't set it up maybe.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Pick it then.
Well, I'm picking it. This is me picking it right now.
All right. Tell me about it.
Deepusheng DE8. Yeah, I mean, it's super cheap. It's got loads of inputs, like 8 inputs. It's got some fancy special effects that...
Wait, so you can have 8 microphones?
Yeah, you can have 8 microphones. You can have 8 microphones. You can have a computer. You can have anything you want. It's got some effects. Hang on, let's try the effects.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Is this the effect? Is this the effect? Yeah, there's a few different random effects. There's a reverb somewhere. I can do like a hallway type thing. That's interesting.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I've got it on max, so I can turn that down a bit. What's reverb? Reverb is number 13. There's a reverb, and I can make it a really short reverb or really long reverb. Who knows?
Well, that's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I imagine you'll use that a lot.
I use it in meetings when I get bored. People know I'm bored because I'm using it in a meeting.
That's the cue to end the meeting. Yeah. All right. So that's your pick. What was it called?
Deepusheng. DEPUSHENG. DE8. Deepusheng. I think it's one of these like a Chinese factory using a sort of Western sounding name that's constructed from words that sound, I don't know, maybe music-y. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Doesn't end up sounding English at all.
No. But yeah, so it's essentially like one of these Amazon things. You know, there's actually quite a few on there. There's some really tempting options that have got like flashy lights and, you know, color fading across the top of them that are around the same price range. But this one I liked because it's got some very, very... Oh, no, this one I chose because of the XLR inputs. It's got like a phantom-powered XLR built in, which is great. And it costs the same price as my standalone phantom power box. So how they do it at that price range, I just don't know, but they do.
You don't want to know.
I don't want to know. No, I probably don't want to know, actually. Let's not mention that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
I've got a pick as well. So I recently started renting a desk at an office.
Nice.
So I just started going there last week, Monday. And this is like an old, like an agency I used to work at. And I know a lot of the people that work there. So it's pretty nice to sit and talk to actual people and just have like micro pauses between work sessions. So yeah, I can definitely recommend meeting people in person. So I don't go there every day, but like a couple of days a week is nice.
And do you have to pay for rent for the whole week, or do you just pay for 2 days?
No, so I pay for the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah. So
your pick is actual human interaction.
Yes.
Interesting. I mean, it's a good pick.
Yeah. Do you guys have an office in London?
We do. We use WeWorks. We just use like.
Right. Yep.
lowest common denominator stuff, but essentially, like we were going to get an office, but COVID happened. Yeah. Then we had people who are all sort of scattered about the place, and so we're like, well, realistically, it doesn't work for everybody. We were paying a lot of money, and not everyone would come in all the time, so we're just kind of winging it for now and having a few people here and there. It would be nice to maybe have a permanent office soon, but we're not doing anything about it just yet. I think a lot of people we hired actually are probably one of their big pulls for the job was actually the remote working thing anyway. So
yeah,
as such,
I can imagine like some companies are starting to do this thing where you do like, oh, we need you to come in at least 3 days a week for some reason, even though everything's been working fine, like completely fine with everyone being remote all the time. It's an odd thing.
It is. It's one of those things, but I don't know. I do like being at home now. It gives me a lot more freedom to get stuff done that I need to get done and work more.
For sure.
Work hours which work better for me.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that completely makes complete sense to me as well. It's just a thing like where it's weird when you start forcing people into like doing stuff that doesn't work for them. I don't know. Anyway, that's my pick. Human interaction at offices.
Nice.
All right. Yeah. So that's this week. Is there anything else we want to touch upon? Probably not.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So this is, by the way, for everyone listening. So this is the first week where we've switched to a more regular recording time. So we're recording once a week at a set time, and we're doing it with or without all the hosts because it's very hard to make things happen when we're all scattered about and we have different things going on. So
yeah, we've sometimes waited months for everyone to be available.
Yep. So I think this is going to be nice. So sometimes you might not hear me, sometimes you might not hear Antony, sometimes you might not hear Sean, like today, but you'll hopefully at least hear two of us. All right. Cool. All right. That's it then. Cool. Thanks for listening, and talk to you all next week. Bye.
Bye.